at the appropriate orientation for our monkey. Good evening. Monkey says good evening from Southeast Louisiana. Hello, my friends. I'm glad you are here. I'm waiting for it to load on my other phone. I'm assuming you all can hear me. Can everyone hear me okay? If not, somebody be going, all I hear is static. Everything is trash. I'm listening at work, so I'll mostly just be listening. Hello, Sean. Amy says deep breath. Deep breath. Woosah. Yeah, it's working. That was me in the background of my own thing. As you know, we always do an audio check because I have had issues with this microphone in the past, and it makes me nervous. So I always have my other device, and my other device allows me to check your comments as we go. So let's get some greetings done. Carolyn says, hi, y'all. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button as you come in. Tell us where you're from. I'm in North Florida. Hey, Suze. Hey, Suze. Hey, Suze says, good evening from Southeast Oklahoma. Monkey Food Garden is from Southeast Louisiana. Deep breath. Chris Stubbs is here. Good evening, Chris. Bobart from Arizona. I spent today putting in aquaponics at the community garden. That is fantastic. Amy says, I am prepared to hear how my land is part of the Department of Making Me Sad. Central Ohio. It's not going to make you sad. It's not going to make you sad. There's good news here, Amy, that we will get into. And Arthur says, greetings, everyone. Hello, Arthur. I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you for joining me this Saturday evening. I know there's no pig hanging around dead or dying. Arthur says from Mississippi. Man, you guys are from all over the place. It's so cool. I'm glad you're here. We're going to start this evening, besides greetings, as we always do, with tea. Oh, Bobert says, Billy from Permapastures Farm is 30 minutes from me helping with an Earthship project. That's super cool. Yes, we are having more of our leftover Christmas herbal tea. Little nutmeg, little cinnamon. It is delightful. We're also going to add a new segment to the channel. You guys are going to have to tell me what you think of it. We're debuting it here tonight. I didn't mention it because I wanted to make you happy. We have a book that we found that we're going to, I think what I'm going to do is read a portion of it every week and have it be a separate segment, but on the channel. We found a book called Housekeeping in Old Virginia that was originally published in 1879. And we got such a kick out of some of the recipes that are in here that I think you guys will enjoy it too. So I think once a week, I'm going to break out a recipe or two. And we're going to discuss, Sean says we'll be reading White Fragility. Mayonnaise is spicy. So once a week, I think I'm going to break out the headphones and the microphones. You guys have talked a little bit about some voiceover work. And I like old school books. There's some crazy stuff in it. I like to see how far we've come. But this was compiled by the best 250 housekeepers in the Old Dominion. And so they asked them to assemble their recipes and housekeeping and those kind of things. And we were reading one of the things about calf head soup, and the reaction of the children was just too good. So I think what we're going to do is once a week, I'm just going to break out the mic and the headphones and pick someplace on the property and kind of almost like this live stream format and just read it, record it, and upload it. And not only will that give us some more content, but they should be fairly quick, fairly brief, bright, and relevant. And it also puts that information out there for all of you guys. There's a bunch of pages in this book. So I'd like to read you one now, if you don't mind. We're going to start with this, and I hope it makes you happy. Actually, I might need to it wouldn't be a live stream if I didn't leave the microphone. I have to grab one of my stage lights. Woo, stage light. Woo. Nothing but the best for you people. I have stage lights. This is to barbecue a squirrel. Put some slices of bacon fat in an oven. Lay the squirrels on them and lay 2 slices of bacon on the top. Put them in the oven and let them cook until done. Lay them on a dish and set near a fire. Take out the bacon, sprinkle 1 spoonful of flour in the gravy, and let it brown. Then pour in 1 teacup of water, 1 tablespoon of butter, some tomato or walnut catsup. Let it cool, then pour it over the squirrel. So in case you guys wanted to know how to make squirrel in ye old Virginia. Actually, I don't think I need that other light. We'll just turn that one off. That is how you prepare. And it said squirrels. So it's assuming, I think, you're a fairly good hunter. But yes, that was a fairly decent one. And I love how it just says cook until done. There's no temperature, right? There's no meat thermometer. There's no time. It's just cook it until it's done. Yep. And a teacup, of some tomato or walnut catsup. I don't know what walnut ketchup is. I'm assuming it's ketchup. It's spelled catsup. But anyways, so that is an excerpt this week from Housekeeping in Old Virginia. It has a foreword from Mrs. R.B. Hayes, who was the first lady at the time. And she said, I am very much pleased with it. Very much pleased with it. So that's it. She's very much pleased. That's it. So I think once a week, we're just going to bang one of those out. It won't take me long to record it, obviously. If I can get it all in one take, it won't take any editing. I can upload it straight from my phone. We have a good microphone. I might actually move around the property. I thought about moving around the property and doing it with different livestock behind me, perhaps, and just different random locations on the farm. I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. Monkey says, now I have something to play before I fall asleep at night. That's right. Once I make one, you can put it on loop and listen to the same recipe over and over until you drift off to sleep. Sean says ketchup was more recently primarily made from tomatoes, but was unheard of during the pioneer days, mainly mushroom ketchup and things of the like. Yeah. I'll have to look up some of the other recipes and maybe chase down that rabbit hole. But it's been a really cool couple of weeks. I know we've talked sort of during the pig butchering, but I haven't kind of given you the overview of what's going on. We've done 3 pigs in 3 weeks, roughly. The weather's been good, so we've banged them out. I have one more pig that I'm doing next weekend, and I'm not going to live stream that one. I didn't live stream the one today. But it's the last one we have. And hey, Mike. Mike says good evening from Virginia Beach. You're back, my friend. Mike and his wife and their daughter came to the property back on their Reformation Day celebration, and they haven't been chatting because one of their things was broken, so they were like watching it on their TV. So Kathy says, I've enjoyed watching the pigs. Well, thank you, Kathy. I did do something different this time. I went ahead and used a propane torch, like a weed killer torch, on the whole outside. Yeah, Mike says I'm going to come up and smoke some of those pork shoulders. Come on, bud. They're in the freezer. Come do it. We'll set a date. If you're available next weekend, Mike, you're more than welcome to come up. Friday, I'm killing it. Saturday, I'm butchering it. Oh, yeah, torching. I'm sorry. I completely lost my train of thought. Sometimes that ADD kicks in. So we used a propane weed killer torch, and last time when we did the scald, I tried that and it worked okay. But I realized that one of the reasons it didn't work so well is because I had just dipped the whole thing in water, so all the hair was wet, so it didn't really burn off very well. So this time it actually burned off quite well. It actually burned almost too well. I had to keep, like, the hair would actually catch on fire, and then I'd take the heat off and it would start to like roll up the outside of it. And so I had to kind of like blow it out while I was doing it to make sure, because one of the tricks with the torch is you obviously don't want to stay in one spot too long, because you'll cook the meat underneath or you'll start burning the skin, and we didn't want to do that. So it took me about 20 minutes with a torch to get 95% of the hair off. I mean, there was some on the hocks that kind of stayed there. There was a little bit down the neck and face where the stick happened. For those of you that are interested, we've talked about it before, but just in case you weren't here, I do have the stun and stick method filmed. It's an unlisted video. I'm not posting it publicly. It is an 18+ rated video. If you want to see how to dispatch the pig and how to stick it, I did film it. You have to send me an email and ask for it at theflannelguys with an S 54@gmail.com. I'd be happy to send it to you, but I'm only sending it that way. I don't want anybody to stumble on an animal getting killed and then freak out. But that area, because of all the blood that was still there, even though I rinsed it and it got wet, it did not burn very well, but that's okay. That was pretty easy to just kind of shave off. We had a couple of friends come up today. This was their pig, so they came up and they butchered it. I was kind of the assist, kind of floated over him, gave tips and pointers and stuff, and they kind of took the knives and went to town with it. It was really cool to see. Their kids were involved, and everybody just had a good time doing old school type stuff. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. I appreciate it. Kathy says, I've never seen the skin stripping before. Yeah, I learned that from Justro over at Metcalf Mills. He did a pig with Billy one time that I watched via the YouTubes. So that was a Justro thing. Amy B says, how many times while you had the pigs did they get out, and what was your fencing systems? So far I've only had one pig get out 3 times, and that's Sally. Sally is our friendliest pig, and she's a bit stubborn also. We were trying to force them to forage on a place that did not have enough forage, so she just kind of scooted out to fuss at me that you aren't feeding me. She scooted right back under the wire, and as long as she has what she needs, she's content to stay in the wire. So that hasn't been much of an issue, but I just use it's called a solar pack. SOLARPAK, solar brain and charger for the fencing system. I think they're about $300. You can find them on Amazon, and they're actually cheaper from Amazon than they are from Solar Pack. It does not come with a grounding rod. It does not come with wires. You have to purchase those things, but you can use rebarb for a grounding rod. It doesn't have to be a big expensive copper rod. And then I just run 2 hot wires like you've seen in the previous videos of keeping the pigs hot wire training and those kind of things. That's just a couple wires run at approximately 6 inches and maybe a foot and a half off the ground, and that keeps them in just fine. Only the one pig out of the 12, 13 we've raised here, 14. So Monkey says, last video was amazing. Lots of great info. Thank you. Thorn Creek, hello. I don't know if we've met before. Welcome to the channel. Says, enjoying your videos. Keep up the great job. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That means a lot to us. It really does. You never know, when you start doing this kind of thing, I mean, quite frankly, there isn't anything I'm doing that hasn't been done by somebody, right? I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. I'm not the first person to put a pig video up. I'm not the first person to hotwire a pig. I'm not the first person to follow the Joel Salatin method on rotating their animals. I'm not the first person to hatch chickens. I'm not the first. There's nothing I'm doing that's a first, except that it's a first for me and my family. Before we moved here, so we were talking about this today. We met a lovely lady in Urbana, is our local town. Over at a little cafe called Where the Sidewalk Ends. Super cool little store. I'm actually hoping to feature it in a a video coming up because they're going to, if we manage to grow flowers, they're going to be one of the places we sell them. And we stopped in there, not necessarily to talk about that, but just to talk and see what the place was about. And she has little stands inside her shop that she does not charge farmers to put in her shop because it brings them in. And she does baking. They raise their own beef, USDA slaughter, all that stuff. And so we spent quite a while talking with her. But we realized that we butchered our very first pig. It was about this time last year. I went over to Studley Farms, and Paul Bolden taught me how to butcher a pig. He teaches classes over there. He's having one coming up in February. So if you go to Studley Farms on YouTube, Studley Farms on Facebook, and I think he's on Craigslist, you can find him. And he's got both days. You can pick one or the other. You can... So you can go for like just the kill and stick method if you're totally cool with butchering it by yourself. If you don't think the stun and stick method is the part you need, you can go for the butchering day. But that was February. And then in April of last year, we butchered our first pig, and we realized this was the 10th pig that we've butchered here since then. So all in 1 year, we've done 10 pigs. So Bobert says I have the hair. That's true. There's nobody on YouTube that has hair like me. I also try very hard not to do the "Hey, what's up, YouTube" thing. Ooh, it drives me crazy. So yeah, it's just kind of it's so all that to say, it's very encouraging when you guys find some benefit to what we're doing. Nathan, how are you, my friend? He says, hello, brother. And Tay says, that's true. Content is content. What makes it great are the people doing them, and you're great people. Aw, and you have a great personality for making videos. Well, that's sweet. Florida Panhandle. Woohoo. That's actually what I told my wife. My wife, who has been married to me for quite some time, is befuddled as to why people would want to watch me or us or our thing. And I do find it sometimes baffling myself. But I do consider you guys to be friends of ours, even if we've never met. And I've met a bunch of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I've met 7 of you personally after these, and I'm meeting some more. I won't name names because they are private people. But yesterday, I met some people. And interestingly enough, this is a couple. And the guy, Buck, I get feed from, had recommended that I meet these people, and they were fairly local. They're like, 5 miles down the road, and that they also have cows and chickens, and they're kind of doing the same sort of thing. And they have acreage and stuff like that, younger couple. And I was talking to a friend of mine at a job I used to work at, and she was telling me about this lady that I needed to meet. So it turns out it's the same people. So I actually probably met the wife of this couple at the job that I worked at 5 or 6 years ago without knowing it. But through the YouTube channel and my friends, we met the other day. And I went over there, and I exchanged some bacon for some raw milk from their cows. Can I tell you raw milk? Like just filtered, not skimmed, oh my gosh, you guys. Holy cow. It is, holy cow. It's delicious. It is so good. It's almost too rich. Like it is very, very creamy. You don't need much of it. Talk about a meal substitute. Oh, it was so good. And I actually put like 2 tablespoons in my coffee with no sugar, and that was good. And I normally like the frou-frou soy nonsense garbage. Pun not intended. Pun intended. The flavored creamers you get from the store that are just not good for me, that are made from like soybean oil, but they make my coffee taste amazing. Just a couple scoops of this in my coffee, no sugar. It was amazing. So I'm hoping to get on like a bacon milk trade with this family. But yeah, they live literally like 4 miles that way. But I have to go 6.5 miles because you have to take roads. I don't have a helicopter. And so with that friendship is developing, and it wouldn't have happened without the channel. And we have another subscriber, Tim, who it turns out lives up near Friedrichsburg, and he's been going to some of these Homesteaders of America conferences and things like that. And I believe he's coming down next weekend for the pig butcher, so he's going to be here. And so he's another one from the channel that I don't have any connection with outside of the channel, and it just turns out he doesn't live that far. So at some point, when he does something on his property, I'm going to try and drive up there and see him, maybe give him a hand, maybe film it, maybe not. It doesn't matter. I don't have to bring everybody who subscribes onto the channel actually onto the channel. But it's just really neat to see the community growing, because if all that to say, if I had not started the YouTube channel, I don't think I would have met probably 4 or 5 of these couples easily, because there wouldn't have just been any way to connect, and you wouldn't have known. And this is one of the ways we find each other and connect. And as you guys know, we're huge into building community and encouraging people to build community. So don't move out into the middle of nowhere and become a hermit. You move out into the middle of nowhere and you reach out, you meet people, you network. And when times are hard, you have people like, my cows aren't going to be ready to milk for like a year and a half. They're not even calving age yet. They're not pregnant. You know, they have a 9-month gestation. So we're probably looking at another 6 months before they're old enough to breed, and then another 9 months after that. So there are people right now with an excess of milk just around the corner from me that I wouldn't have found if it wasn't for this. I have an excess of pork, and neither one of us are allowed to sell it, because as soon as money gets on it, you know, it's not healthy and it's dangerous, and you become a criminal. So egregious. But so those kind of things and those networks are happening, and it's really, really neat and humbling to be accepted kind of into this area, because as you guys know, this is our first go around and all this stuff. So yeah, it's been very, very encouraging. I go back to work tomorrow, so I will be on duty for the next week or so. So I do have one more video coming out on probably either Monday or Tuesday. Depends on if I get it edited tomorrow. There's some things going on. And then I don't have anything in the hopper. I'll have to get back to filming. We've done a lot of stuff. I just haven't filmed it. Some days it's nice to actually just put the camera down and do some work. But I'll get you guys caught up to speed. We did pull down the fence in the crop area, and that needs to get moved over to the kitchen garden area. And we cleaned up a bunch of crepe myrtles on our driveway. We did some crepe murder, and it looks amazing. We've got like 4 or 5 more to go. But all that intro to say, homesteading will not make you happy. It's true. Now, for those of you that don't know, I am a Christian man, and a lot of my philosophy and such and worldview is built on scripture. Now, if you're not a Christian, I just want you to hear me out. I'm not going to try and convert you right now. And I'm going to read a verse to you, and then you'll understand why it's applicable to you, even if you are not a Christian. You do not have to be a saved individual for this to be applicable. Biblical truths are true whether we agree with the source or not. Truth doesn't care whether you believe where it came from or not. I guess that I should say is it's true whether you believe it's true or not. Truth is truth. Gravity doesn't care if you jump out of a tree believing it doesn't exist. It exists. It's going to happen. So let me pull up a verse for you real quick. And Paul says in Philippians 4, not that I speak from need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. I know how to get along with little. I also know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret to being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. You've probably heard this verse before. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. So what does this mean? We tend to happiness is almost the anticipation of something, not the actual event itself. And it applies to more than just homesteading. It applies to paying off debt. It applies to money. It applies to marriage. It applies to Christmas, vacations. It applies to anything in your life. We almost get more enjoyment in looking forward to the event than the actual event itself. And I was thinking of this as I was going around my property, thinking of how many things I need to get ready for in this upcoming grow season. And it just, there's, homesteading provides you the opportunity to do a lot of work. And that's good. Work is fulfilling. I have some friends who are going through a difficult time. I probably have multiple friends, as a matter of fact, going through a difficult time in their marriage. And my sister just got married. It's wonderful. Marriage is a wonderful, amazing thing. But you hear it a lot these days, right? That somebody in the marriage is no longer happy. They're not happy anymore. They don't feel fulfilled. The other person doesn't make them happy. They've lost themselves. I've heard that term a lot, right? I got married young and I feel like I lost my identity. And now I'm not happy. For any of my homeschooling parents out there, how many days of homeschooling made you actually happy, right? Probably not that many. Duty, self-discipline, those things don't necessarily make you happy, but they can make you content. You can take satisfaction in doing the right thing. Our culture is obsessed with the part that doesn't matter. They're obsessed with happiness. Happiness is almost like a cup of coffee. It's a flash in the pan, right? But it's not sustenance. It's not the long-term thing that we need to sustain us. So it takes an incredible amount of work to sit down at your table and eat food that you made yourself. And you guys know this. A lot of you are doing this yourselves. Even if it's a backyard garden, right? Even if it's just the greens, even if you just have a salad. Can we just have a salad or something? You guys see Nacho Libre? It's a great movie. Why can't we just have like a salad? Somebody stole the chips. But when you sit down and there's, whatever, in our case, pork chops, ground pork, whatever, some frozen corn that we had before, and some homemade bread, and your children are there, and they're not psychopaths because you haven't sent them off to the government school. Caveat to that, okay, I know there are some single parents out there. I know there are people who have no other option but to use government schools. So I am not hating on anybody in a situation that can't. But you literally have to build your life around homeschooling. It's extremely expensive to have a spouse stay home. So if you're not in that position, please don't feel like I'm saying anything negative to you at all. God is sovereign, and he can keep your kids safe wherever they are. So let me just use that caveat. But it's not a good place to put your kids if you can help it, in my opinion. And you sit around this table and your kids are there and you're eating your food and it's satisfying. Your bones might be weary. you might be at your emotional wit's end, having the kids run you ragged the whole day because they just did not want to focus on their studies and they made a mess and they were hungry and they talked back and they did all the things that kids do. But then they're sitting around the table laughing and joking, and you're with your kids and your wife or your spouse, and it's good. That's the contentment we need. Sometimes we look at the money, right? And you go, man, if I could just get out of debt, if I could just make a little more money, if we could just move out of this neighborhood, if we could just. There's always something that is just one or two things that are preventing us from a happiness, right? And if we could just fix those couple things. Now, I will tell you, I am super, super thrilled. And I am very happy that God allowed our dreams to come true, to be able to live on some land, homeschool our children, and grow some food. That has been a lifelong dream. And realizing that dream has been very satisfying. But you can't live in tomorrow. You can't live in tomorrow. All you have is today. As you guys know, if you've been watching for any amount of time, one of my favorite verses is in Matthew. I think it's 6:34. That says, do not worry about the evil in tomorrow. There's plenty of evil in today. So you still have things to do today, right? Now, debt is terrible. Get out of it if you can. Of course, that takes burdens off. There are things that we can do to eliminate burdens, and those are good things. But the I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me verse applies to finding contentment in your situation. It doesn't mean I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It means I can go turn a building over because Christ said I could do all things. It doesn't mean you can, step into traffic and cars will miss you. It doesn't mean that you can live reckless and foolishly and God will prevent you from having any consequences. We tend to take that verse way, way, way out of context. What it means is 15 years ago, when I was in a 900 square foot apartment with 2 children on the second floor apartment, and our neighbor, they had those wall boxes of mail, and our neighbor's getting jumped underneath us, and there was domestic violence literally across the hallway, and some random person tried our door one day, and there were fights in the parking lots and those kind of things. I can be content there. I can be content when I'm hungry and with little. And we had a 2.5 foot wide by 7 foot wide porch. That was it. That was our outside space. Now they had a playground and stuff, but does it sound like you would let your kids go play on that playground in that location? So what we did was, it was a wood slat, porch, and we took artificial carpet and I laid it down so that it wouldn't, nothing would fall through into our neighbors. And I got one of those little green turtle sandboxes. We planted as many plants as we possibly could up there. Most of them were just pretty, but we grew tomatoes and beans. And there was a 3rd floor above us. And we took that, we took lag bolts, and I hung a little like baby infant swing out there, and then a toddler swing for my 2 daughters. And we did everything we could to be content. And we were eating out of this was when we were in Columbus, Georgia, which is right on the border of Phoenix City, Alabama. And there was a place called the Phoenix City Food Locker. And essentially, it was all the food that didn't sell that then got frozen. And it wasn't exactly a food pantry, but meat was like $1.50 a pound, and you would just buy like chunks. They would put these bags together of just chunks of cuts of meat that they just stuffed in there. And it was hard. It was hard living. And I will be perfectly honest, we were not content all the time. That's the thing we need Christ to strengthen us in. And hi, RG. Good to see you. She says, hi, Brian. You made lemon out of lemonades. We did our best. And then we moved out of that place, and we moved into, we leased a house up here in Virginia, and we did our best. We had a little bit bigger of a backyard and worked our way through that, and had a little bit bigger of a garden and a few things like that. And then we bought the broken house on Maple that you guys have seen on the channel. That's the rental property now. That was also in a sketchy part of town. And we pulled bullets out of the shingles because on New Year's and the 4th of July, people shot in the air. And we were there for 5 years and finally moved again. And so through all that time, and now we're here. And it blows my mind still that I'm here. But the equipment that I have, as you guys have seen, breaks, right? We had to put a well in that cost a lot of money. The cars have broken. The truck has broken. We've had potato beetles. We've had, potato harvests that didn't go right. We've had animal losses. It's been a struggle. It's been a struggle, but it's been good. I have learned a lot, and you can be content with those things, right? On the days where everything goes cattywampus, as I love that word. It's such a good word, cattywampus. As things go sideways, you're learning. You can be learning. You can apply that to next time. You're not as vulnerable as you were because you're becoming seasoned. You're learning these things. There's a lot of tears when it comes to homeschooling your kids because raising children is hard. Raising children is hard. Applesauce says, I love that word too. How do you spell it? I think however you want. Phonetically, definitely. I probably spell it with a K. Catawampus. But if you are homeschooling, Mike says, I'm going to brush up on apologetics and theological philosophy for Round the Smoker conversations. I love it. Patricia, good evening. She says, hi from Australia. Good word. When you're homeschooling your children, their education in terms of reading, writing, and arithmetic is not as important as their character. Their character is more important. And that's one of the things that you have to understand when you homeschool your children. It's not as much about the reading and writing as it is about teaching them not to talk back to you, as it is about teaching them to say please and thank you, about coexisting with their brothers and sisters. And if you can be kind to your siblings, then you can be kind to people in the world. It's not that refining someone's character is significantly harder than teaching someone to read, significantly harder than math. And those are the things we tend to stress about, right? Because we're educating our children at home and we feel like it's a reflection on us, right? So if our kids don't do no reading no good, then we not no good teachers. Well, I don't care if your kid talks like that, but they say, please, thank you, work hard and go to church on Sunday and love their Lord. I don't care. I don't care. They can grow up and be a trash collector or whatever job that society says isn't a good one, right? And never be a lawyer, doctor, or physicist. And if they are good humans, you did a good job. So if you are in the throes, Tay, I saw you wrote some stuff. I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm going to scroll back and I will catch up. But you're doing the right thing. You're doing a good job, okay? I was homeschooled my entire life, and there are some gaps that I wished I did not have. And some of those are my own fault. My handwriting is atrocious, and my mom tried. She really did. And I rushed through my stuff because I wanted to get it done, because in case you can't tell by how quickly I talk, I like to get things done quickly so I can get about doing something else. So, but what my parents did do a wonderful job was instilling a love of the Lord in me from an early age, teaching me a good work ethic, right? Good manners and those kind of things. And so that's what we're working on with our kids. And that matters so much more. So if you feel, and this time of year, guys, it is really easy to get frustrated, right? Because the days are short, they're cold, they're wet. There's nothing really to look forward to, right? The holidays are over and it's just cold and gross and everybody's cranky. Oh, man, don't worry about it. You're doing the right thing. So these people that say, I've lost myself. I used to like all these other things, and now I don't even get a chance to go braid a pony's hair anymore because I have to raise children. Get over yourself. You are a part of something bigger. You're a part of something better. Okay? When you get married, the two shall become one. Of course you lose yourself. That's the point. That's the point. You and the other person become something you were not. You are new. They have all your baggage and stuff with you. Of course, you still have your issues. The other person doesn't complete you and make you whole. You just bring your baggage in and you pile it up with their baggage, and hopefully you can help each other work on your baggage. But then you bring little humans into the world and you raise them. That is so much more important. more important than my job is to provide enough money so that we can raise our children well, right? So everything that I'm doing is to support the mission at home. It's not about my career or how much money we can make or the car. None of that matters. If you have to live in a tiny apartment and and do whatever it takes to raise your kids, if you have to live in an apartment and never ever homestead because that's what it takes to leave a spouse at home and homestead, and you never save for retirement, any of those things, doesn't matter. You're doing the right thing. We were sold a bill of goods, my friends, especially us millennials, that, when you grow up, find what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, what happens is you end up not liking the thing that you loved because now you have to do it for money. It takes a lot of the joy right out of it. If I thought about what it would cost, a monetary value on the things that I'm doing around here, it wouldn't be worth it, because it's not, I can go make more money doing something else, but it's not about the money. It's about quality of life. It's about quality of life. Applesauce says, I never had kids. Makes me sad. Applesauce, I feel you there. We have 3 kids. I planned on having more. The pregnancies nearly killed my wife all 3 times, so we have 3. And at times, I have grieved over the children we did not have. And that's okay. It's okay to grieve over the future that we thought was going to be, right? And it doesn't even have to be kids. Maybe your spouse left you. We lost my dad 5 years ago when he was only 64. There's a future that you thought was going to be that is not anymore. And it takes some time to wrap your head around that. And it's okay to grieve that future that is not going to be, but you can't stay there. Okay? I know that you have things to share with people. Applesauce. I know that's not your name, but it feels funny giving a very serious thing to the handle applesauce. But that doesn't, it can cripple you, right? It can be something that pulls you out of the game, and you have a lot to offer to people, and not having kids does provide you a certain freedom to do things. And you have time that you probably could be serving elsewhere because you're not raising kids. So who knows why the Lord wills what he wills in the ways that he does. But sometimes our futures just aren't what we expect. All right, Tay-Tay, I'm going to scroll back up to find out what you were. Tay-Tay says, wow, I needed to hear this tonight. This week has been tough. My father is in a destructive spiral, heavily drinking. I've been in bed all week. This is really speaking to my spirit. Thank you. I'm very sorry to hear that. Tay-Tay, alcoholism is a horrible thing. Amy B says, a spouse always gone who won't eat bounty off the land is constantly critical. It's really a beatdown. It is. It is. It's very hard when our partners aren't partnering. Jennifer Hayes says, I told another homeschool mom the process is more important than the end result, and she didn't like hearing that. No, the end result is important, but not in terms of education. And it doesn't mean your kids are going to come out fine with education. There's going to be gaps and holes, but everyone has gaps and holes. Have you seen what's coming out of public and private school these days? I mean, honestly, you're going to do better than that no matter what. Applesauce says, yeah, it doesn't seem like it gets any easier, but I ended up feeling sorry for my dad. I go back and forth working on forgiveness. I think I forgive, and then I get all upset sometimes too. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is an interesting topic. I need to be careful with what I say because I can make people very upset, and that's not my intent. So let me think on how to phrase this. We have family members who have been difficult. And I won't get into details because there's no reason to point out people's dirty laundry. I have enough sin in my own life. But there are people that have done very hurtful and egregious, and in some cases illegal and very, very immoral things. And we've decided, well, some of them we've cut out of our lives completely. Don't feel bad if you have to cut people out of your life. If they are living in unrepentant sin and are destructive and dangerous to you and your family, cut them out. Cut them out. Grieve then for the future that you won't have. And then get busy with your family. Have it stop with you. I do think there are such things as generational curses. I also think they can be broken. So if you have somebody, and I know not everybody can do it. I know, in some cases they live with you, but we have had people in our family older than us who were dangerous and destructive, and we did. There's always a path for redemption. And you don't hold it against them. You grieve that you're not going to have the person in your life and the influence in your life that you had hoped to have. And then you move on. And then you focus on your spouse or your children, or if you don't have those, on your own self and your relationship with the Lord and the people around you that he puts in your life, and you love on them, and you find family. You go to church and you find family and you throw yourself into those people. We don't live anywhere near our own family, and one of the families that was here, well, the family that was here today is basically family. We share Christmas with them. We share holidays with them. And we actually ended up moving, and they moved in the wrong direction. We're 2 hours apart, and we still take time to see each other. You put good influences in your life. If you have bad influences in your life, even if they're family, they will wreck you. You cannot stand against those types of influences. This is one of the reasons why church is so important, and to surround ourselves, with people that are like-minded. But you can't withstand the onslaught of somebody who's hell-bent on destroying themselves. Oh, hi, Caramel. Looking for dinner? So yeah, and you don't have to hate them for it. In a lot of cases, people are caught, right? Alcoholism is horrible. I struggled with it for years. Been sober 7 years now, and it'll wreck your life, and it'll wreck the lives of those around you. It really will. And you don't want it to. You don't even mean for it to, but you've made your decisions. You make your choices, and that's, it's self-inflicted. It is self-inflicted. Let me let him inside. He's going to meow a lot. Hold on. Okay. Wouldn't be a live stream if I didn't walk away. So yes, you stop, right? I'm 40 years old. And at some point, you have to decide that you're the grown-up and you're going to take a hold of your life. And it's not going to be that way for your children. It's not. Amy had mentioned having a spouse that, doesn't participate basically in your dream, right? In your vision. That's incredibly difficult. One of the things that really can break apart a marriage is having two different goals in mind. And that's hard to square. That's hard to square. I've had several friends who were like, oh man, I want to do this, I want to do that. But my wife, she's not interested. I want to keep bees in the backyard. She's not interested. I want to do, chickens. She's not interested. Whatever. Or he's not interested, or he won't do it, or he's critical of my efforts. Why are you bothering with all this stuff? That's hard. And it doesn't even have to be with homesteading, just any dreams, right? One wants more kids, one doesn't. One doesn't want a new car, one does. And then instead of working together with your spouse and achieving goals together, you're at odds with your spouse and you're fighting over, whose vision is going to win out. And that's a hard place to be. So I empathize for you. There's no easy answer for that. especially with just a few comments and trying to do it over this. But Clarissa says, any recommendations on how to get a 6-year-old, 2 4-year-olds, and a 2-year-old to get along? My 3 oldest fights like cats and dogs when I'm teaching. So it's yeah, I do. Don't allow it. And that sounds like a trite answer, but it's not. And actually, your husband probably has to help with the discipline if possible. I know work schedules don't allow for things. But my wife is a fairly strict. She's a no-nonsense woman. That's why she married a clown, and we balance each other. But she can speak harshly to the children, right? Threaten, cajole, discipline. And it doesn't mean the same thing as it does coming from the father, from the dad. So if possible, I would get him involved. And one of the things that we have taught in our house is anything other than prompt obedience is disobedience. So if it's not done instantly, it's just the same as if you had not done it at all. Now that doesn't mean like you get instantly beaten if you don't, whatever. But if I say to do something and it starts to drag out, then I will mention that, hey, I asked you to do that and you're not doing it. Why are you not doing it? Yes, to delay is to disobey. Thank you, Matthew. That's perfect. And so if they start to fight and you say stop and it doesn't stop, they need to be scared of you or your husband more than they are interested in beating on each other. That's what I would say. And if that means that they have to be, absolutely quiet until they figure these, until they can talk to each other like civilized human beings. Sometimes my kid's first reaction to their other sibling is, what? Right? One walks into the room and goes, hey, are you reading that book? What? Like it's instant, like snark, right? And we shut it down. You have to shut it down because you have to retrain constantly retrain. And it's over and over and over again. And the counting thing, I'm not saying you do it. I'm just throwing that out there. The counting thing was huge, a few years ago, right? So, Sue, go pick up your shoes. 1, 2. The kid's gonna wait until 2, right? Why? Because 3 is when consequences happen. So why did we wait till 3? Why wasn't the first time enough? Right? And it's exhausting as a parent to be that consistent. And that's when they say, the key to parenting is consistency. Yes, that means constantly. And it feels like nagging, right? Well, I like corporal discipline. I do. I like corporal discipline for a myriad of reasons. But one of the reasons is because it's quick and it's over, right? You can discipline a child quickly and it's over. I don't like timeouts. I don't like grounding. We forget, I think, as adults sometimes that time moves differently for children than it does for us. I mean, we can be doing something, an hour blows by, right? When a kid is bored, an hour's like forever. So I don't like to drag things out. So if I told you to stop and you don't stop, we're going to deal with it right now, and then it's over. And I love you. And the reason we do this is because I love you, and you're not going to grow up and to be a horrible human being. And now back to doing what we're doing. and it's over. Do you know why it hurts when a baby pokes itself in the eye? And I'm talking like a little itty bitty baby, right? And it's playing with its fingers and right in the eyeball. Do you know why that hurts? So the baby will learn not to do it again. That's why we have pain receptors. This is why it hurts, right? So we don't smash our fingers with hammers anymore, or we don't crash into things. This is why we have pain receptors. It's for us to learn, right? How many times have you modified your behavior as an adult because you did something that caused you pain? So, don't abuse your children. Oh, Amy. Thank you very much. You guys are amazing. It's very humbling. So yeah, don't beat your children unmercifully, unjustly, or in anger. You cannot be mad and discipline your children. You must be cool as a cucumber. And sometimes that means one of the spouses has to take over. But I might have told this story, but I'm going to tell it again. My wife said to me one day, I say all the same things you say, and I speak in the same voice for, everything, and they don't listen to me. And then you come in and you say the same thing I said in the same way, in the same tone, and they do it. And I don't understand. I don't think she said I don't understand. She just said it was frustrating. And I said, well, look as you guys know, I'm firefighter EMS, right? I go into people's houses all the time. And sometimes there's dogs in those houses. And when a little yippy dog runs into the living room going at my ankles, I go, oh, look, it's a little yippy dog. Go away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. But when I walk into somebody's house and there's a pit bull on the couch and it's going, even if it hasn't moved, I go, am I going to die now? Is this the end? Right? Because I know the one dog's not really going to hurt me. And I know the other dog can kill me. Your children should be more scared of the consequences than they are wanting to do what they want to do. So, and I will say this, if you're going to switch things up disciplinary wise, so if you're listening to this and you think, gosh, I have not been corporally punishing my children. And I think I'm going to switch gears and we're going to start doing that. Warn them. I would sit down with your kids, and we've had family meetings like this before, and said, look your mother and I, right? You always start with yourself first whenever it's good counseling, have noticed that you guys are being rotten to each other. You're not speaking with love, and you're not treating each other, right? They'll know we are Christians by our love. And you guys are not really showing each other love. You're being kind of rude and disrespectful to each other. You're beating on each other. When your mother is trying to teach and you are running around all willy-nilly, banging pots and pans off each other's heads, it's disrespectful to your mother. It's a lot of effort to keep mom at home, to raise you children, so you're not sent off in school buses for hours at a time. So you're going to be better when somebody asks you a question. I even have them sometimes say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir to each other because it's good practice, right? But the answer to your mother is always yes, ma'am. At the end, doesn't always happen. They're a little older now, but anyways. Now, if this does not happen, and I don't expect you guys to be perfect, but if your mother is teaching and you two start going at it and she says, that's enough, and it doesn't stop, I am going to immediately separate you, and I'm going to spank you, and I'm going to spank you. And then we're going to come back and try it again. I just want you to know so you're not surprised, right? Because if you haven't been doing it, you don't want it to all of a sudden, what in the world is happening, right? Because yesterday they did the same thing, and all mom said was, knock it off, I'm getting exhausted, and I'm going to go in my room and cry again because you're running roughshod all over me. Because kids will, and they don't really mean to. They're just evil at birth, and we have to work on that for the rest of their lives. It's called sanctification. Children are born depraved. So you should warn them, right? If your boss all of a sudden changed policies at work and you didn't know it, now you're getting, your butt chewed because you didn't do whatever. That's not kosher, man. So I would warn them. And then enforce. And I think I read somewhere, probably the back of a Reader's Digest, so take it for what it's worth. Yeah, Kathy says, and they turn you into human services. If you go to jail for being a good parent, God love you. Go to jail. It's worth it. Oh man, what was I saying? I just lost it. Oh, Reader's Digest. Right. It takes something like 21 days for good behavior to be instilled or modified, or a good habit, or to break a bad habit, or something like that. So if you can think as a parent, I can keep this up for a month. I can do this for a month. I can do this for a month. I must be intentional. As soon as they don't obey, we're going to treat it like disobedience. It doesn't take that long, because kids don't like it when they get owies. So they will learn very quickly how to not get owies very quickly. And what the hard part will be is in a month or two, when they start slipping back into that behavior, that you still have to enforce it. So that's a very long answer to your short question. I hope that helps. Yeah, Mike says occasionally go for a spank on the two. Amy says the dark side of Psalm 23, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. They do. Yeah, Chris Stubbs says most definitely involved. It's a balance of discipline and leniency. Yeah, Jennifer K says it's exhausting for a while, but it's worth it. It is. It is. It is exhausting, and it is worth it. And there are times to have mercy, right? There are times to have mercy. But I will give you an example. One of my children came to me today and confessed something, and they had tears streaming down their face. And my kids are getting a little older. One's a teenager and the other two are close. Nobody brought it to our attention. This was a grievance that they committed against another child, their sibling, and they did something they knew they were not supposed to, that they have gotten in trouble very severely for in the past. And they came to us, tears streaming down their face, and they said, "I did this and this, and I did it to them, and I'm sorry." And me and Mrs. Leno looked at each other for a little bit. And I said, kind of what happened. So she told me the whole story, and definitely in the wrong. And I said, thank you for telling us. And we expect better from you. I know. She's tears. I know. Okay. Well, go on. And that was it. An incident like this hasn't happened in months. And so we were lenient. And she was terrified. But she told us. Right? And we try to mirror poorly our Father in heaven, don't we? As parents, we try and mirror the example he gives to us. And he says, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So what had happened was her conscience ate at her so greatly that she felt compelled to tell us. And that's what you're trying to instill. You cannot make perfect humans because you're not perfect either. Always we are learning. We are being refined. We are being sanctified. So as soon as you have no more struggles in your life, then you'll be able to raise perfect children. Our kids have the struggles in them that they're going to have for the rest of their lives, and they might have different bents in different ways, right? But really what it boils down to is we're all selfish in some way, and we're trying to learn how not to be. We're trying to learn how not to be. So I felt like the confession was a win. I felt like the inner conflict, I felt like she was broken on the inside, her own self. There was no defiance. There was no rebellion. There was just sorrow. And she came up later after a time had gone by and got a hug and some loving, right? Because much like the toxic people that can be in our lives, we don't love keeps no records of wrong. Now, we can see patterns in people, right, that we have to work on when it comes to our children, work on correcting the patterns. And I think this is something we struggle with in our marriages, right? We keep records of wrongs that our spouses do. We don't wipe that slate clean every morning. And then we just kind of wait for them to do the thing that we're expecting them to do. And love keeps no record of wrong. And love hopes all things. Which is really, really hard to do. Especially for wives. Because it turns out wives have really, really good memories. And we husbands are really good at giving them things to remember. Not always in the best ways. But anyhow, my friends. Whew. Mio, hello. Catch us on the replay. I hope so. I think it was this was a good stream, my friends. This was good fellowship, actually. We call it a stream, but really it's me hanging out with you and you hanging out with me. And I draw strength and encouragement from you guys. You're a blessing to me and my family. I really, really enjoy our times together. And it helps me. This is almost like my own weekly therapy session, if you will, because I talk the things out that I'm thinking about. And if it sounds stupid when I say it out loud, then we try and back it up. But it's been a good evening, and I appreciate you being here. Like I said, I'm going to work tomorrow. So if you'd pray for our safety of the family. Thank you guys for your sharing. Sean says, still at work. Enjoy these, brother. God bless you, Sean. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys sharing your stuff that you've shared in the chat, and that you are vulnerable in that way. It means a lot to me, and it helps us encourage each other in the chat, right? There are other people that are going through similar type things, and we're not alone. We're not alone. It's one of the big things about community is not being alone. So, Carolyn says, no live stream from Deep South. They canceled. Well, what a bummer. Well, you'll just have to watch this one again. Oh, man, I really wish they were going to Sean's to butcher the pig. That'd be fun. I can't wait to meet Danny and Wanda. It's going to happen at some point, probably when I go to my brother's. I'll probably pop over there and say hi to them. But they're good folk. So anyhow, happy Saturday. I hope you are able to find a church to fellowship in tomorrow. As always, keep growing as you grow, and may the Lord bless you and keep you this week. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.